Well, welcome to the 2023 Kentucky State Fair. I'm Sharon Spencer with the Kentucky Department of Agriculture. We started doing the farm to fair cooking stage and everything else. And what we want to do is highlight our producers and our farmers here in the state of Kentucky. We're very proud of what they do. And so tonight you all are in for a special treat. No more cooking, no more sampling, unless maybe Dakota wants to cook some flowers. There is flowers that you can cook, as we've seen them absolutely gorgeous. But you guys are in for a great treat. We have Dakota Moore, he's with the Kentucky Horticultural Council, and he is grower outreach. He is the grower outreach coordinator. You said it to me. We work together all the time, but I have to think what their official titles are, because we joke and tease so much. The Kentucky Horticultural Council is also actually one of our sponsors on this stage. They go out and purchase all of the produce and everything for us to use in our cooking demos. But we're going to do something a little bit different tonight. We have found out that a lot of us are going up to growing fresh flowers. Even having a you pick flowers and everything on your farms. So also, we've got joining us on stage from Dakota, we've got Ms. Tara Watkins. She's with the University of Kentucky. Real excited about having her here. I will say something about Tara, her husband, and her mom and dad. Raise your hands. They actually hosted, they're from Franklin County, and they actually hosted the Franklin County Farm City Field Day. So folks actually get to go out on the farm, they go on a wagon tour, then at lunch we'll feed them a ribeye steak. But they get to go on the farm and see what our farmers actually do on the farm, how their operations are. Tara got doing the flowers. Okay, Tara, how many years have you been doing flowers? 3 years, and she's already an expert at this. You are. Dakota is going to be arranging. He's going to show you how simple. He makes it look so simple to make these arrangements. I tried to copy off from him, and it just didn't work. But I'm going to turn this over to Dakota. Tara, I'm going to let you all tell a little bit about what you do. And Tara, you tell about selling at the farmer's market, because I sneaked up on your mom one time thinking it was you, and I'm like, oh, you're not Tara. But tell us a little bit about what you do, how you sell your flowers, where you sell your flowers, and then Dakota, what you all do with Horticultural Council. I've talked way too much today. We get tongue-tied.
Welcome, everyone. So this is going to be pretty informal tonight. What Dakota's going to do for us is he's going to take all of this lovely foliage and flowers that we have over here, and he's going to make a few small arrangements for us.
So we'll see if I can do it in and out.
All right. So, like I said, it's going to be pretty informal. He's going to talk a little bit about his design and why he's doing what he's doing. And then as he's designing, I'll fill in a little bit about why Kentucky-grown cut flowers are so important and how you as a consumer can find Kentucky-grown cut flowers wherever you live. So, do you want to start with design?
Yeah, I will say, if you've got questions, come up to this rope and raise your hand, and we'll try to answer your questions.
I'll listen for you.
Yeah. So the first one I'm going to start with is going to be our biggest one we're doing, but I'm going to try to use not many more flowers than I would in something about this size. We're going to play with proportion and do something kind of funky in this one, then we'll do something really traditional, and then I'll show just a few little special ones to end. I'm going to move this out of the way so you can see. Yeah, so the head containers are pretty popular right now. So I found this one at a garden center. It's concrete. It's pretty substantial. I've seen them in different sizes, but people are doing really cool things with potted plants, also doing cool things with flowers in these unique containers. So for this one, I'm going to start out a little different than I normally would. We'll just place this branch. This is going to be one of my focal points. So this is a kiwi branch. I would like to say this is Kentucky grown, but I don't think it is. I've had this a really long time, and when you have something dried like this, it's going to last and be something you can use for many, many years. I will say this is what I'm working with. I'm working with chicken wire, so it's just a ball of chicken wire. Instead of using floral foam today, I thought I'd show an alternative. So this is something I can reuse. So it's just chicken wire. I push down in here. I'm placing this stick where I want it to be. when I'm placing, I'm looking more at the top, so where I want this to be versus where I want it to be in here. If I'm doing that, then I'm not going to place it where I want it. So I'm going to place it, we'll try to work it in where I want, and I'll probably end up moving it, but I want to know my height. So I'm keeping that in my mind where I want my height. Next, I'm going to start with some greenery. I'm going to pull this asparagus fern. So I've got two types of asparagus fern. I've got the foxtail, so it's really columnar, looks very much like asparagus, and then this is the springerite asparagus fern. So I'm just going to give these a little snip before I stick them in. These are going to hold pretty easy because of the chicken wire and then the leaves. And this stick is going to give me very flat. The kiwi is not, this one is not Kentucky grown, but kiwi can be grown in Kentucky. We've got several growers who are doing hardy variety of kiwi. So if you see it at the farmer's market, give it a try.
While Dakota's filling in some of this foliage, I'm going to talk a little bit more, just briefly, about the chicken wire that he's using. So traditionally, a lot of arrangements that are being made in this manner would be made using floral foam. And so floral foam is, we're trying to transition out of floral foam in the sustainable floral design industry because it's not good for the environment, it cannot be good for your health, but it is easy to use. So that's one of the perks of it. The chicken wire, like he said, it's reusable. It's environmentally friendly, and it's just all around more sustainable. So we do have a lot of event designers and traditional florists that are trying to use some of these more sustainable methods other than floral foam, with the chicken wire being some of them. In some of Dakota's later designs tonight, he'll show you another option for sustainable use as well.
So next, this is going to be the first Kentucky grown, well, I grew this fern myself, so I didn't purchase it, but it was grown here in Kentucky. It is growing up here, so it'll come back year after year. So first up, I'm going to use one of Tara's foliage. You want to tell us a little bit more about this one?
So, as Dakota just mentioned, I actually grew this. This is called Euphorbia Snow on the Mountain. What Sharon didn't mention, in addition to working for UK, I also am a Kentucky cut flower grower in Franklin County. And so this Euphorbia Snow on the Mountain came from my farm. It's a fun summer foliage that is an annual. It is frost tender, so at the end of the season, frost will take it out, and it will have to be replanted again next year. So it is an annual. It grows in the summer. It thrives in the heat. So this is just a fun, unique, kind of whimsical foliage that dances.
Yeah, it's really cool. I like using it. It's different than anything you would find at a wholesale florist. This does leak a little milky substance. So this is a type of latex. You might recognize this if you ever dealt with poinsettias. You know, they leave a little milky white stuff when you bend them or break them. And that's because they are cousins. They're in the same genus. So they're very similar, as well as the candelabra cactus. Those are euphorbia as well. So I'm just using these to give myself more of a base. I don't get the same hold with the chicken wire as I would the floral foam. So I'm going to try to use some greenery to give me that hold by filling those spaces. And I think I've done that pretty well, and I'm going to move on to some of our flowers. So I'm going to start with this autumn joy seed. So I love working with the sedum. From the growers, you can get this, earlier in the season, it's just going to be the leaves, which is a pretty nice, it could replace this asparagus fern in this design. It's more of a spiky, very succulent leaves. But once they start blooming, you get these flower heads. Then in the fall, if you've ever had these in your yard, they dry pretty well too. So the florists are also selling these dried. So I'm just going to place a few of these. I am going to strip the leaves off so I can fit them in there without messing up any of the other things I've placed.
So Dakota mentioned just a moment ago that the euphorbia, this white and green foliage that he was using, is something that can't really be accessed at all or very frequently from the import wholesaler. And what I mean by import wholesaler, those are the large wholesalers that we find in our cities in Kentucky. They import flowers and foliage from outside of the U.S. About 80% of flowers and foliage used in the floral industry in the U.S. are actually imported from outside of the U.S. So part of what we want to do as local growers and local farmers is try to change that narrative over time. So one of the things that you cannot get at a wholesaler is this euphorbia. So that's one of the advantages of sourcing locally and utilizing the products that farmers can grow here in our state.
And here's another one that you can't get in the same quality. So the dahlias are something you can get wholesale, but the quality is not going to be the same. They don't do well touching things. So when they're imported in, they're shipped in a box and they're laid down. So everything that's touched the box is going to be bruised. So these were wrapped in paper and put in a bucket. And when I picked them up, they were very nice quality. So I'm just going to place a few of these. These are going to be my highlights because these are more of an expensive flower. So I'm going to use these in spots I want to stand out. So I guess it's time for us to mention where I bought these flowers. So I already said this was from Tara, but the rest of this, I think, what else is yours up here? The celosia, but everything else came from different flower farms.
Can you talk a little bit about the KFM?
Yeah.
All right, so there are many ways that you can be a consumer of Kentucky-grown cut flowers. So the way that Dakota was a consumer of Kentucky-grown cut flowers tonight is that he sourced all of this from, did you say 5 different farms? 8 different farms through a farmer collective called the Kentucky Flower Market. Has anybody heard of the Kentucky Flower Market? Okay, we've got a couple. Yeah, my family's heard of them. So the Kentucky Flower Market is based in Simpsonville, Kentucky, which is just about half an hour from here in Louisville. And it is a collective of about 15 to 20 different flower farms in the central Kentucky area. They pool all of their inventory where designers and florists, people of that nature can shop wholesale through this collective rather than shopping wholesale through an import wholesale. So it's a really neat way for farms to work together to pool their inventory and for florists and designers to be able to source and shop local product. Some things that they couldn't get from the import wholesalers and things that they can get, but as Dakota mentioned, like with these dahlias, are just generally much lower quality because they just don't ship well.
Yeah, so I've set 4 of these dahlias in here, more than I wanted to do, but they look really good. So I've added a few more. Now I'm filling them with this celosia. So this is another one that doesn't ship well from, through wholesale. So it's the celosia, and then I've got a few zinnias we'll be using. The zinnias are things that we just can't get wholesale because they don't ship. They don't last long enough to be shipped, or they just can't stand being out of water. So the celosia is, what variety did you call this one? Terracotta?
This particular color is called terracotta. It's from the Selway series, and it is a variety of wheat type celosia. So that just refers to the shape of this flower head. It's called wheat type. Celosia comes in 3 main types. We have the wheat type, you have a plume type, which can be large, kind of feathery-like masses. And then we also have coxcomb celosia. Is anybody familiar with coxcomb celosia? It's the crested, brainy-looking ones. Anybody familiar? A couple. If you've seen it, you would have said, oh, wow, that does look like a brain. So very unique. Something also really cool about celosia is that it dries very well. It holds its color very nicely, and it holds its shape very nicely. So if you are into drying flowers for whatever use, definitely visit the celosia family because you'll have a lot of options to choose from in both size, shape, and color.
And they like to drop their seeds. So if these were at my house, I'd probably put something down underneath them to collect the seed, and then I would be able to plant those later on. I think we're about finished with this one. I'm going to add a few more sticks to tie in this fall one. So this one is just a little different than some of the others we will do and some of the things you may have seen before. I just want to try something different. When you've got cool flowers, you can just play around, have fun. I think I might add a few marigolds just to tie in. Haven't talked about those yet. So that's another one that is pretty hard to find also. They sit in two gorgeous colors. I've got this gold color, and then I've got an orange color as well. And the branch on the stem, so there's 4 big blooms on it, and then I've got the smaller ones to add more interest as well. I'm just going to tuck a few of these in. I don't want a ton, but I want it to tie into our other designs. So I thought I would do 4 designs just to show if you've got, a collection of flowers, but not enough to do, several of the same thing, you may not know what to do with them. Well, with this, you can do similar designs that complement each other without having to worry about everything matching. And with the local flowers, that's one thing you'll have trouble getting everything to match because every flower and every stem is unique. So when you buy wholesale, you're going to have curved stems that have more branching. If I were to buy this wholesale, it would be straight up and down, not many branches, probably just a few leaves. So if you like cool, fun, different things, wholesale is definitely, or local is definitely the way for you to go over wholesale. I think we're about done with this one. I'm going to add a few of these horsetail, bulrush reeds. They look like bamboo. They're hollow. They're really fun. I think they're perennial.
They are.
Yeah, so we've got a good mix of perennials and annuals. So the flower growers we work with in the state are just doing really cool things. They're finding ways, different ways to grow, different ways to make money off their products, second uses like the dried. And so it blows my mind every time I get to see what they've been doing.
While you're finishing up, should I tell them how they can buy from KFM?
Yeah.
All right, so KFM is that Kentucky Flower Market that I mentioned a minute ago. Does anybody in the audience live near Simpsonville, where you could be a consumer? Okay, a couple? So you can source from KFM even if you're not wholesaling. So all you have to do is go to the Kentucky Flower Market website, and it will direct you to a platform called Rooted Farmers. And that's basically just a sales platform. You can make a free account, and you can shop from all of these different farms. So you can buy straight bunches of something like euphorbia or something like these orange marigolds. Or they have mixed bouquets, something that you might traditionally find at a farmer's market that might have several different varieties of flowers in it. You can shop KFM through that website. Or every Wednesday, all the farms bring in their product, and you can shop in person in Simpsonville. They have a brick and mortar location. It's open from 8:30 to 6 every Wednesday during season, and you can go and shop there.
Yeah, and so that's just 30 growers working together to reach a larger audience. They're able to sell more flowers to more different people. My work with the Kentucky Horticulture Council, with our cut flower growers, I've been able to work to create a map. We've got it over here on a poster. You can scan it with your phone and see those 130 farms we work with in Kentucky. So our next one I'm moving on to, this one is very simple. Anybody know what a floral frog is? Let's see, there's the camera. A floral frog. So these are very old-fashioned, very traditional. Before we had a lot of the floral foam or other, more modern technologies to do floral design. It was these metal frogs or the glass frogs that sit on top of the vase. So I'm just going to use this to create an easy little piece. I put a little tape on the bottom. You can buy a floral putty and do the same thing. So these would be used more for a little accent, a small coffee table, something very tiny. I'm not going to do a ton with this one. I just typically you don't fill these full. You just want to make sure when you insert your stem, it's being held by the spikes, and it's not going to go anywhere. Usually you want to be careful moving these as well because the thing will slide. I'm just going to use a few blends.
So while Dakota's getting a few things together for this design, I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about what I do at the University of Kentucky. As Sharon mentioned, that is my employer, and my official title is Commercial Ornamentals Extension Associate. So basically what that means is I am lucky enough to get to work with growers in the nursery industry, in the Christmas tree industry, and in the cut flower industry in Kentucky. So I work with growers statewide, basically with whatever they may need from me. That includes a lot of technical assistance, anything from just starting out, I think I want to do Christmas trees, where do I need to start? Can you look at my soil? What variety should we grow? Let's talk fertility, let's talk irrigation, all things of that nature. Our growers here in the state of Kentucky will come to me for that type of thing. So it's really fun. No 2 days are the same, really, and I get to meet a lot of wonderful growers who have great ambitions and want to bring Kentucky-grown products from their farm into your homes in one way or another.
So I'm really just sticking a few things in. These are really simple. You don't want to do a whole lot with them. I just want to show off, all the different little pieces. Give a good mix of flowers and foliage. And this one is always going to be more vertical because of the size. That's it. I don't know. Maybe we'll stick a little pod. I've got an extra lotus pod. So these did come out of the lake in Kentucky. So lotus pods, take them from the grower. So she travels and finds cool things to use, dry or fresh. And I've also been using some of these echinacea blooms. I guess there's still a bloom. The petals were just plucked up. So this grower decided that the bugs had damaged her petals too much, but she didn't want to toss the crop, so she plucked all the petals off, and then she sold this cool little pod looking bud. So it's the center of the echinacea, or coneflower, as it's also called. They're really fun and cool to work with.
Can you get something like that at a wholesaler?
No, you probably can't. You can get lotus pods, but echinacea is probably not one you can get.
So again, something unique, something cool that you can get from local growers that you can't get from an import wholesaler.
Our next one, I hope the camera can see this. So this is just going to be a traditional vase. We're going to do traditional round vase. I thought I'd show how to do that. So this one, I'm going to use tape to create a grid on top. Because I'm going to use water in this, but since some of my stems aren't either thick enough or firm enough, I'm going to use tape to give me hold in this vase instead of the foam.
So while Dakota's getting this tape on this vase here, another part of my job is actually educating and promoting Kentucky-grown flowers, both to consumers, to the public, people like you who can consume through farmers markets or on-farm ventures, and also to our florists and wedding event designers of how they can source local and the benefits of sourcing local. So, is there anybody in the crowd who is a consumer of locally grown cut flowers? Raise your hand. Have you bought flowers from a local farm near you? Okay, how did you guys get flowers? Farmers market, subscription, farmers market? Okay, anybody else? Farmers market? Has anybody gotten flowers from a farm near you, not through the farmers market, some other avenue? Okay, no, it doesn't look like it. So we'll talk a little bit about a few ways that you can source locally grown cut flowers in your area. All right, I'll keep talking. Dakota's filling with water. So one of the ways that our flower farmers have come up with a way to get flowers from their farm and into your homes or offices or businesses. It's a subscription service, or a CSA. Is anybody familiar with the term CSA? Okay, it's a lot of times associated with veggie CSAs or meat CSAs, and really what it is it's like a subscription service. You sign up, you might get a monthly box of veggies or a weekly box of veggies. You can do the same thing for flowers. So a lot of our farms in Kentucky will offer a CSA subscription service that you can either sign up for a monthly bouquet, bi-weekly bouquet, weekly bouquet. So, as Dakota mentioned, if that sounds like something that might interest you, you can go to this poster board up here, and on the bottom left-hand corner, there's a QR code that you can scan, and it'll take you to a map of about 130 flower farms here in the state of Kentucky. You can find ones that are near you, click on the little flower logo of the one that is near you, and it'll tell you some of the sales outlets for that particular farm. It'll tell you if they're at a farmer's market, if they do wholesale, if they do U-pick, whatever avenues they use to sell their flowers.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about how you're getting started.
Yeah, so with the tape, it's just clear tape. You can buy it at hobby stores. I made a grid, so I did 3 across, and I turned it, and I did 3 across to give me less space that I have to cover with stems to get a good hold. And then after I did that grid, I went around the outside with that tape. And a trick on this tape, it holds well if you give it a little pull when you're a little stretch when you're putting it around. So if you just pull it with your thumb as you spin, that's going to give me a nice hold. If I was traveling with this, I would feel a lot better that it's going to stay where I want it to. It's not going to move around if it gets tilted or shifting during the dry. And now that I've got the grid, I'm going to use more of the euphorbia to cover this grid. So I'm going to tuck it in. It's going to help my stems hold even better, keep them in place. And I'm going to use some more of that fern as well. So I'm just going to fill some of these holes with euphorbia, and I'll fill the others with the fern, just to give me a nice base to work with. You could almost do just a big mound of euphorbia and it'd be pretty enough to sit on a table. But so through the KFM, we purchased these bundles. So it was 10 stems, 10 or 5 stems normally of the flowers. But if you don't need that quantity and you don't feel like making your own, a lot of these farmers are selling wrapped bouquets. They're selling, mason jar arrangements or vase arrangements. So that saves you the time and the design if you're not, happy with how yours would turn out. But it's always fun to just grab a bundle, a pre-wrapped bouquet, take it home, take it apart, and put it in your own vase the way you want to. So I'm just filling this, giving myself a nice base to work with, and then I'm just going to make, a round arrangement that's going to be viewed from all sides. If anybody has questions, please come up and ask us, and we'll try to answer the best we can. Questions about growing, questions about design.
Any questions? Stairs? So her question was, she wants to establish some perennials, and she's looking for ones that maybe don't take up so much space, ones that can be planted 2 to 3 feet apart. So the answer to that is yes, there are perennials that can be planted about 2 to 3 feet apart. One we actually have here tonight is this sedum that Dakota mentioned. This sedum stays relatively low growing, so it gets about yay high or so, maybe just a little bit taller. And it does have a spreading growth habit over the years, but it's not anything that will be wild and out of control. So it is something that you can plant relatively close together. And as Dakota mentioned earlier, it's something that is really versatile. So one, it lasts forever in the vase because of its succulent nature. Two, it can be used early in the season because it has just the nice green foliage from very early spring. And then when it starts setting these flower heads, you can use the flower heads while they're still green, while they start to turn kind of light pink, and then further into the fall, they will turn a darker pink, and then they can even be used while they're dry. So they are an all-around really good perennial to have. Now, I have more to say about that, but I want Dakota to talk about some of his design real quick.
So what I'm doing is I'm just taking a mix of what we've got and I'm placing them at different heights. With this one, I don't think I'm going to go much taller than the same height of the base. You'll hear design, principles that it has to be 1.5 times the height of your base and at least the width of the height of your base. But really, it's whatever you want to do. You're a designer, you're the artist, so you get to pick what you're doing. So I'm just cutting them, giving them a fresh cut. You always give your flowers, your stems a fresh cut before you put them in the vase, just so that they're rehydrating more easily than before. And I'm also making sure I'm not cutting it too short. If you cut it too long, you can always go back and give it a trim later on. But I just want to start by giving it a cut I know will not be too short for where I want it. I'm also making sure I'm placing it where I want it by watching the head of the flower. So the plant where I want this to be in my vase is what I'm watching. I'm not watching this as I stick it in. Yes, I do have the tape going across the vase, but this will find its way in because it's not super full yet. So I'm watching where I want this to go, and it will find its way through the tape in a hole in the grid. So this that I'm inserting is a filler or a supporting flower, as we call them now. This is Status. This is one of my favorites to use. It's a great flower to dry because it holds the color pretty well. It's not going to shed anything. Maybe some dry flowers will shed a lot of pieces. This one's pretty much going to hold together and keep its color for a while. And before that, I put some more of our Autumn Joy sedum in, I stuck a dahlia in, and I'll come in with another. And then I did place these zinnias. So zinnias are one I love to use because everybody's got some of it growing somewhere. If it's not at their house, then there's somebody that has some growing. So they can always go and cut some and use them in the vase. But that might sound like, why would you use those when they're so simple and everybody's got them? Well, the colors that people are able to grow nowadays are just mind-blowing. Everything is so pretty. Though we had some we used on Thursday that were like a yellow peach color. It's almost the color of this dahlia. So you wouldn't think that a zinnia could be that color. Do you grow zinnias as well?
Yes.
They're probably a big seller.
They are, especially the unique ones that Dakota's talking about. A lot of the unique ones you can find in specialized series. I'd say probably the most popular specialized series right now is the Queen series, which is part of those zinnias that you had in use on Thursday. They have a lime line, so you can get several different colors, such as like red lime, lemon lime, orange lime, and it's just a shade. No two flowers of that variety are the same. They're just really unique. I wish I had some examples up here to show you guys. But again, zinnias, if he says zinnias, I say zinnias, it's all the same. But zinnias are, again, a flower that probably your grandma grew in her backyard, or maybe you grow in your backyard, but there are some really cool varieties out there that have been released in the last 5, 10 years or so that are really kind of changing the use and the face and the characterization of some things like zinnias.
So if they wanted to harvest some of their own zinnias to use, what would you recommend?
How
Ways
to
to
harvest?
capture them, yeah.
Absolutely. So a zinnia, there's a such thing as harvesting it too early, and there's a such thing as harvesting it too late. So when you know a zinnia is ready, it must pass, it's very scientific, the wiggle test. All right, you must pass the wiggle test. So you hold the stem of that zinnia about 6 inches down from the flower head, you'll take it, and you'll shake it. And if the flower wiggles, it is not ready. If the flower stem is sturdy and stiff, that means it is ready to cut. So don't cut too early if it doesn't pass the wiggle test. Leave it to mature for another day or two. You can plant a zinnia too late, where you might have something called zinnia meltdown, or you might have something that's just basically premature browning on the edge of the petals, and it just won't have as good a base life. So zinnias, once they become pollinated, and this also holds true for other flowers, but once they become pollinated and you see those yellow anthers coming out around the center of the flower there, that means it's probably been pollinated or will be pollinated very soon, and once pollination occurs, the base life drastically changes. So there's a few harvest tips on zinnias. If you have those in your backyard and you want to bring them in and enjoy them, there's a couple tips for you to get the best base life out of them.
So I'm finishing up with this one. I'm just making sure I don't have any major holes. So this one isn't super compact, but I've got it pretty full. I'm just tucking in some more celosia. I tucked in some more euphorbia as well. I'm going to add a few of those echinacea blooms without the petals for a nice different texture. So I don't know if you can see that on the monitor. The different texture is pretty cool to add to arrangements. It stands out. And as I'm finishing, I'm always taking a step back, spinning, making sure I don't have any holes, making sure I'm not lopsided. That's why I'm always spinning. I purchased this Lazy Susan recently. It changed how quickly I can design because I'm not sitting there spinning a vase. But yeah, it's fun to just do whatever you want to do when you're designing. Stick whatever you want in it. As long as the colors make you happy, it's going to turn out great. I am adding a few pieces of this mountain mint. This is a new one for me. I hadn't used it until a few weeks ago. It smells really nice, but it's not very strong. It's not very overpowering. So it's been really fun to use in arrangements.
So, Dakota, I'm going to talk about that mountain mint for a second because I want to revisit your question on perennials real quick. We never finished that conversation. So, I'm assuming you asked that question probably because maybe you don't have a lot of space to work with and you're looking for things that you can maximize your space and your use. So, with perennials, we mainly divide them into two basic categories. We have woody perennials and we have herbaceous perennials. And so, typically, the woody perennials are, the large bushes that take up more than 2 or 3 feet, right? But there's also a lot of good options that can be used that fall in that herbaceous perennial category. So one of them is mountain mint. So here in our zone in the state of Kentucky, mountain mint is a perennial. It's herbaceous, and it's something that stays relatively low growing and doesn't take up that much space. Now, I say that with a caveat. It does have a spreading tendency, but you can just take out those plants that spread and keep it under control. And that's an example of something that is a perennial. You do not have to replant every year that you can use. Some other options are some things like feverfew, yarrow. There's also a few other varieties of mint that behave in the same way. So if you're working with limited space, some of those herbaceous perennials might be some better options for you. Now, if you do want to put in some woody perennials, I definitely recommend looking for ones that can be used for both foliage and flowers. So a lot of our perennials have a bloom season, but then they also have very attractive foliage that can be used in floral work that you can really put them on all season.
So as I'm finishing up, I'm just watching the bottom now, so I want to make sure I'm not seeing any of my tape. And this euphorbia does really well to cover that. In the floral world, we call it hiding our mechanics. So we don't want people to see our tape. We don't want to see them see our floral foam or our chicken wire. So you just want to make sure you've covered all of that. I think I just broke this marigold. So I'm going to pop it out, give it a cut if I can, so that it goes in there and gets water. I know it's going to get some water. So I'm tucking that in there. I think I'm pretty good on this one. It's just a nice mix of everything we've got up here. I think I used all of it. Maybe we'll pop in some of our lotus pods to give it just another cool color and texture and to tie it together with our other pieces. I love using dried stuff in an arrangement with fresh because it just shows that you're using everything you can, and making art with everything you've got available. It is getting tight in this vase, so I'm going to be careful as I'm pushing things in, that I'm not going to break anything I've got in there. The good thing about using water, you don't have to worry about inserting and pulling out. If I was using floral foam, I'd be watching that because I'd create a hole every stem I stick in, so I wouldn't want to pull that out. With this, I can push it in, I can pull it out some if I want to change the height on the arrangement, if I want to make things taller. If I want to push things deeper, I can pull it out, give it a cut, and push it in a little deeper. This one is more of a traditional all-around arrangement. Sometimes we call them roundy-roundies. Some florists think that this is that word. So we'll just call this the traditional arrangement. And then we'll move on to our last one. So this is a hyacinth vase. So this is something I found this spring. It was marked down because what you're supposed to do is take a hyacinth bowl, set it on top, you fill the bottom with water, then roots come out of that bowl into the water, and then it blooms right there, in your windowsill. This one is just on markdown because someone bought it, so I thought I would use it as a bud vase. Everybody's got small little containers that would be great bud vases. You just got to think, what can I do with that? So the first small one I did over there with the floral frog, that's actually an ashtray I found at an antique store. So you got to look around and find cool different things you can use. So with bud vases, it's one of the most simple things you can do. I'm just going to use a few stems, see what I've got left.
While Dakota's getting started, I just want to draw your attention over here. So if you weren't here on Thursday night, this is the arrangement that Dakota designed for us on Thursday night. It is a much larger, just a single arrangement. Dakota, does this type of arrangement have a name?
No.
Nice. Low,
Nice. Yeah.
Right? So he uses the same products that he's using up here tonight, but you can just see it's kind of just a different vibe, I guess, but still beautiful. What was the term that you used talking about the monochromatic scale across?
Yeah, so a big thing with design right now is monochrome or color blocking. So this one is color blocked. So I've got lines of my orange, lines of my yellow, lines of my peach and pink. So that's pretty trendy right now with design. Doing color blocking for those monochrome designs, it just draws your eye in a different way than some of these mixed things do. And it's all about what kind of statement you want to make. If you want to do something really cool and unique, you might try a monochrome or color block just to show that you're keeping up with the times or doing things more modern. But I love doing mixed arrangements as well because it just seems so bright and colorful compared to one solid color. The color blocking, we kind of got to mix it up a little bit so we don't have so much of that. But it's always fun to do cool, different things every time you design. That one is more of a low, round arrangement, so that would be used as a centerpiece. So you could put that in the middle of your dining room table and still be able to talk across it. I'm not going to have to worry about peeking behind my blooms or anything like that. So with the bed vase, this one's going to be more full than I normally would do a bed vase, but I've got the flowers, so I might as well use them, right? So I'm just trying to use a little bit of everything we've got. This is very common for what a lot of wedding designers will do. They'll make their big pieces, and then with their leftover flowers, they'll make these smaller side table or bathroom arrangements with whatever's left. So I'm just using some of these echinacea pods, as well as the marigolds, one of everything, just to give us something pretty cool and different. And then I've got some of this horsetail, bulrush. I'm going to give us a little bit of height, just so it's not so low. And as I finish up, if anybody's got more questions, please let us know. Come on up and ask it, or we'll come out to you. I'll probably set everything down here once we're finished, so you can come up and take a look. Ask us about some of the different things you see, and any other questions you might have.
Does anybody have any production questions or questions how you can be a part of the Kentucky Cut Flower scene by supporting the farms in your area, and instead of going to Kroger and buying those daisies and things that you see there, how you can support the farms in your area and buy something that's just really vibrant and fresh? Any questions? You guys are ready to go buy some local flowers.
Yeah, if you need help finding a farm, reach out to either of us, or come over here and scan this code. You can see right on your phone all the flowers that are near you.
And while you're at it, if you don't already, be sure to follow the Kentucky Horticulture Council on Facebook, Instagram. Facebook and Instagram?
Yeah.
That's it. Okay.
YouTube.
No TikTok or anything like that. YouTube videos. They have a lot of really good instructional videos if you are wanting to be on the production side of things. If you're just wanting to be a consumer, again, still follow the Kentucky Horticulture Council, because you'll be able to see a lot of cool opportunities for some things that may be going on in your area, or promoting farms that might be in your area, things of that nature. So be sure to give them a follow.